Few mysteries in modern aviation history haunt the world as much as Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. On March 8, 2014, the Boeing 777 carrying 239 people vanished into thin air after departing Kuala Lumpur for Beijing. Despite massive international searches covering vast areas of the Indian Ocean, no confirmed wreckage was found for years, and the disappearance became the greatest enigma of modern flight. Families were left with silence. Speculation spiraled, and governments faced accusations of incompetence and cover-up. But in recent years, a man named Richard Godfrey has reignited the debate, claiming not only to know where MH370 lies, but presenting what he calls undeniable proof, evidence so detailed that it has left experts stunned. Richard Godfrey is not a pilot or an airline executive. He is an aerospace engineer who dedicated years to tracking MH370's final journey using an advanced system known as Weak Signal Propagation Reporting (WSPR). This technology, often used by amateur radio enthusiasts, relies on signals bouncing between stations across the globe. Godfrey argued that MH370 disturbed these signals as it flew across the skies, creating a hidden trail, invisible to radar but recorded in radio patterns. By analyzing thousands of these interactions, he claimed to have reconstructed the aircraft's path across the Indian Ocean, pinpointing a location where the wreckage should be found. His findings were shocking, not just because of the method, but because of the precision. While earlier searches had scarred vast swaths of ocean, spending hundreds of millions of dollars with little result, Godfrey's model narrowed the crash site to a specific area about 2,000 kilometers west of Perth, Australia. According to him, MH370 lies at a depth of around 4,000 meters in a location previously overlooked by search teams. He described the aircraft as resting largely intact, hidden in one of the most remote and least accessible places on Earth. That the proof he presented wasn't only mathematical. Over the years, fragments of MH370 had washed up on shores across Africa and the Indian Ocean islands. These included pieces of wing flaps, cabin panels, and even a section of the tail. Experts confirmed many of these fragments belonged to the missing jet. Godfrey's location theory matched the drift patterns of these fragments almost perfectly, reinforcing his claim that his WSPR tracking data wasn't coincidence but confirmation. The aviation world reacted with a mix of awe and skepticism. Some experts hailed Godfrey's work as groundbreaking, a possible key to solving a riddle that had eluded the largest air search in history. Others questioned whether WSPR technology was reliable enough to locate an aircraft, warning that signals could be influenced by too many variables. But even among skeptics, there was acknowledgement that Godfrey's precision was uncanny and that his analysis had narrowed the search field in a way that deserved serious consideration. For the families of MH370's victims, Godfrey's revelations were both painful and hopeful. Painful because they reignited the trauma of not knowing, forcing families to relive unanswered questions. Hopeful because after years of dead ends, here was someone offering a clear answer, a precise place, a chance for closure. If he's right, one family member said, we could finally bring them home. What makes Richard Godfrey's claim so compelling is not only his technical expertise, but his determination. He has spent nearly a decade studying MH370, publishing detailed reports and challenging official conclusions. Unlike many conspiracy theories that swirl around the tragedy, ranging from hijackings to secret military interventions, Godfrey's theory is grounded in data, charts, and repeatable methods. It is not wild speculation but an engineer's attempt to bring order to chaos. If he is correct, then the greatest aviation mystery of the 21st century may soon come to an end. But if he is wrong, then MH370's shadow will linger, haunting the skies and reminding us that even in an age of satellites and global surveillance, a plane can still vanish without a trace. Richard Godfrey's theory about the final resting place of MH370 is built on a system so obscure that many outside of the amateur radio community had never heard of it before the tragedy. It is called the Weak Signal Propagation Reporter Network, or WSPR's pronounced whisper, and it is the backbone of his claim to have solved what the world's largest search effort could not. Understanding how Godfrey used this system step by step is critical to grasping why his work has fascinated aviation experts and why it has left others unsettled. WSPR was never intended to find missing airplanes. It was created by radio hobbyists as a way to study how weak radio signals travel across the globe. Thousands of transmitters and receivers scattered around the world send out tiny signals every 2 minutes, recording how and where they are picked up. These signals bounce off the ionosphere, travel vast distances, and provide valuable information about radio wave behavior. For most people, this was a niche hobby, but to Godfrey, it became a tool for uncovering what radar and satellites missed. Here is how Godfrey applied it. He theorized that a large object like a Boeing 777 could interfere with these weak radio signals as it crossed their paths. Every time MH370 passed between a transmitter and a receiver, it would slightly disturb the signal. While this disturbance would not reveal itself directly to the naked eye, it would appear in the data as irregularities in how the signal was recorded. By analyzing global WSPR records from the night MH370 vanished, Godfrey searched for these irregularities, looking for a trail of disturbances that matched the possible flight path of the missing jet. This process was not quick. Godfrey combed through more than 300 different radio links recorded that night, identifying anomalies and cross-checking them against satellite data from Inmarsat, the British company whose satellites had tracked MH370's handshakes with ground stations even after its transponders were switched off. The Inmarsat data had already indicated that MH370 likely turned south over the Indian Ocean after flying off course, but it could not pinpoint the exact crash site. By overlaying the WSPR anomalies with the Inmarsat ORCs, Godfrey created a flight path that he claimed fit both data sets. The result was striking. His analysis showed MH370 turning south about an hour after disappearing from radar, flying on a relatively straight path before spiraling down into the southern Indian Ocean. He pinpointed the crash site to a specific coordinate: south 95.300 drubs east, an area roughly 200 miles west of Perth, Australia. The precision of this claim, down to fractions of a degree, was what made his work stand out. Instead of an ocean covering millions of square kilometers, Godfrey offered a target zone of just 300 square kilometers. The aviation community was divided. Supporters pointed out that his findings aligned with drift analyses of debris later found on beaches in Madagascar, Mauritius, and Tanzania. Oceanographers had long argued that currents would have carried wreckage to these exact locations if MH370 had gone down where Godfrey suggested. The consistency between ocean drift models and WSPR data seemed too close to be coincidence. Critics, however, warned of overconfidence. WSPR signals, they argued, can be influenced by countless factors: atmospheric noise, solar activity, even the presence of other aircraft. To rely on such disturbances as proof of MH370's path, skeptics said, was risky at best. Some accused Godfrey of fitting the data to his hypothesis rather than allowing the data to stand on its own. A single error in interpretation, they argued, could lead search teams on yet another costly wild goose chase. And yet even among skeptics there was unease. Godfrey's location did not contradict earlier search efforts. It refined them. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, had previously led searches across a massive swath of the southern Indian Ocean, but some areas near Godfrey's proposed site had not been fully mapped. Ocean Infinity, a private company that mounted a search in 2018, admitted that challenging seabed conditions meant gaps remained. In other words, MH370 could still be lying intact in exactly the place Godfrey described, overlooked not because of bad data, but because of the sheer difficulty of scouring every trench and ridge of the ocean floor. For families of the victims, Godfrey's work was both a lifeline and a torment. After years of silence, here was someone offering not vague theories but concrete coordinates. It gave them hope that closure was possible, that the remains of the plane and the bodies of their loved ones could still be recovered. But at the same time, it reopened wounds. For nearly a decade, they had been told different theories: hijacking, pilot suicide, even far-fetched conspiracies involving foreign governments. Each new claim promised answers and delivered only more pain. Was Godfrey's proof any different, or would it be another chapter of hope deferred? Regardless of whether his method is ultimately validated, Richard Godfrey accomplished something remarkable. He reframed the MH370 search. Instead of being dismissed as unsolvable, the mystery once again feels within reach. His use of WSPR technology turned a hobbyist's tool into a forensic instrument, offering a fresh perspective on a case thought to be lost in the deep. The unsettling part is that if Godfrey is correct, then the world has always known where MH370 was, but failed to look in the right place. That truth, if proven, will haunt aviation authorities for decades to come. When Richard Godfrey announced that he had used WSPR data to identify the final resting place of MH370, the aviation world was forced to pay attention. For nearly a decade, families, experts, and governments had been left frustrated by an endless cycle of speculation and failed searches. Here, finally, was someone offering a specific location backed by a method that seemed technical, scientific, and repeatable. Yet the response to Godfrey's claim revealed deep divisions. Some hailed his work as groundbreaking and potentially decisive. Others dismissed it as pseudoscience, a dangerous distraction that risked reopening wounds without delivering closure. Supporters pointed first to the elegance of Godfrey's theory. For years, the mystery of MH370's disappearance seemed unsolvable because it slipped into a technological blind spot. Radar lost it. Satellites provided only faint handshakes, and the ocean floor remained unmapped. By harnessing WSPR, a global system recording signals every 2 minutes, Godfrey filled in those blind spots. His approach transformed what had been a problem of invisibility into one of traceability. It's a clever use of data that already exists, one engineer noted. He turned background noise into a map. For many, this ingenuity alone made his claim worthy of serious investigation. Government officials in Australia, who had led the largest search effort, were cautiously intrigued. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, acknowledged that Godfrey's proposed location fell within areas that had not been completely searched due to challenging sea terrain. While they did not endorse his conclusions outright, they did not dismiss them either. Ocean Infinity, the private exploration company that conducted a search in 2018, also indicated that Godfrey's coordinates overlapped with places their autonomous underwater vehicles could not fully cover. For families desperate for closure, this acknowledgement was critical. It meant Godfrey's claim could not be ruled out simply because the area had already been searched. Critics, however, were quick to pounce on weaknesses in the theory. Aviation experts pointed out that WSPR was never designed to track aircraft. The disturbances in signals Godfrey identified, they argued, could be caused by atmospheric interference, random noise, or other aircraft in the sky. It's like trying to follow a shadow in the dark, one skeptic remarked. Others accused Godfrey of confirmation bias, selecting anomalies that fit the Inmarsat satellite data and ignoring those that did not. In their view, the method might be ingenious, but it lacked the rigorous controls necessary for scientific certainty. The official skepticism was amplified by the trauma of past false hopes. Over the years, MH370 had been found countless times, each claim unraveling under scrutiny. Families had been promised answers by psychics, self-proclaimed insiders, and opportunists chasing publicity, while Godfrey's credentials as an engineer set him apart from fringe theorists. The caution among families and officials was understandable. "We've been here before," one widow of a victim said. "We've had coordinates, we've had promises, but still nothing." Yet there was something different about Godfrey's claim. Unlike vague theories of hijackings or conspiracies, his work was grounded in data, numbers, coordinates, repeatable methods. Even those who doubted his conclusion admitted that it was testable. The beauty of his claim, one oceanographer noted, is that it can be proven or disproven. Either the wreck is there or it isn't. This testability made the pressure for a renewed search grow louder. Families of victims found themselves torn between skepticism and hope. On one hand, they had endured nearly a decade of false starts. On the other, they could not ignore the possibility that Godfrey's pinpointed location could finally give them closure. Several advocacy groups petitioned governments and private companies to mount another search, arguing that the cost of inaction, leaving 239 people's fate unresolved, was far greater than the cost of sending ships back into the Indian Ocean. The broader aviation community, too, recognized the stakes. MH370 was more than a mystery, it was a wound in global aviation safety. If Godfrey's method could locate the wreckage, it could answer not just where the plane ended, but why it vanished. Was it pilot suicide, hijacking, mechanical failure, or something else entirely? Finding the wreckage and flight recorders could reshape aviation security forever. But the skepticism lingered. Critics warned that pinning too much hope on Godfrey risked wasting resources and reigniting false hope among families. "We've already spent hundreds of millions of dollars," one official said. "We need certainty before committing again." For them, was too untested, too unconventional. They feared that Godfrey's work might join the long list of theories that captivated the public but ultimately delivered nothing. And yet, the conversation had shifted. Before Godfrey, the mystery of MH370 felt paralyzed, unsolvable, abandoned to the depths. After his claim, there was once again a specific place, a set of coordinates, a reason to look. Whether right or wrong, his work had forced the world to reimagine the search, reigniting debate in governments, media, and living rooms. For experts, officials, and families alike, the stakes could not be higher. If Godfrey is correct, the wreckage of MH370 could be found within months of a new search, finally solving a mystery that has haunted the world for nearly a decade. If he is wrong, then yet another layer of heartbreak will be added to an already unbearable tragedy. Either way, his claim has ensured that MH370 is no longer a mystery consigned to silence. It is once again a question demanding answers. Nearly 10 years have passed since Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 vanished, and yet the push to return to the Indian Ocean has never fully faded. Each new clue, each new theory has reignited calls for governments and private companies to resume the search. Richard Godfrey's claim, backed by his analysis of WSPR data, has made that call louder than ever. For the first time in years, advocates believe the mystery might be within reach of a solution. But deciding whether to search again is not just about science. It is about politics, cost, and the emotional weight of a tragedy that still scars hundreds of families worldwide. The first searches for MH370 were enormous. The Australian-led effort between 2014 and 2017 became the most expensive aviation search in history, covering more than 120,000 square kilometers of seabed. Ships deployed sonar, deep-sea drones, and advanced mapping equipment to scan the remote and turbulent waters west of Australia. Yet, despite years of work and hundreds of millions of dollars spent, nothing was found. The wreckage seemed to taunt investigators, hiding in one of the least explored regions on Earth. By 2018, the official search was suspended, leaving families furious and desperate. That same year, Ocean Infinity, a private seabed exploration company, launched its own mission under a no find, no fee agreement with the Malaysian government. Their state-of-the-art autonomous underwater vehicles scanned a further 112,000 square kilometers. Again, nothing. The ship returned empty-handed, and for many it felt like the world had given up. Godfrey's announcement in 2021 changed that narrative. By pointing to a precise area, just 300 square kilometers, he made the prospect of resuming the search seem manageable. Instead of endlessly mapping featureless ocean floor, searchers could target a specific location. Ocean Infinity quickly signaled interest, saying they were open to returning to the region with updated technology if governments approved. For families, this was the lifeline they had been waiting for: a tangible plan, a specific place, and a company willing to act. But governments are cautious. The Malaysian government, still criticized for its handling of the initial disappearance, has hesitated to commit to another costly mission without strong guarantees. Australian authorities, too, are wary. They acknowledge that Godfrey's site overlaps with areas not fully searched, but they stress that WSPR data has never before been used in aviation investigations. Committing taxpayer money to a method unproven in this context is a risk. "We want closure as much as anyone," one Australian official said, "but we cannot chase every theory." Still, momentum is building. Aviation experts argue that finding MH370 is not only about closure for families but about global safety. If a Boeing 777, one of the most reliable aircraft ever built, could vanish without explanation, the industry needs to know why. Was it mechanical failure, pilot intent, a hijacking? Without wreckage, every theory remains speculation, leaving unanswered questions that could affect future flights. Until MH370 is found, one investigator said, aviation will carry a ghost in its systems. Families of the victims continue to be the loudest voices pushing for a new search. Many say Godfrey's theory offers their first real hope in years. For them, the wreckage represents more than answers. It represents the chance to bury loved ones, to mark graves, to end a decade of cruel uncertainty. "We have lived in limbo for too long," one father explained. "Finding that plane is the only way to begin healing." There are also practical reasons why a new search may succeed where others failed. Technology has advanced since 2018. Ocean mapping tools are now more precise, autonomous underwater vehicles can dive deeper and cover more ground, and data processing capabilities have grown. The very gaps that plagued earlier searches, deep trenches, rugged terrain, areas too complex to scan fully, may no longer be obstacles. Yet there is also fear. What if another search, even with Godfrey's coordinates, comes up empty? For families, the heartbreak of false hope may be worse than silence. For governments, another failure would be politically costly. That fear of disappointment has frozen decision-making even as pressure mounts. Richard Godfrey himself has acknowledged the uncertainty. While he is confident in his analysis, he admits only a search will prove him right or wrong. The wreckage is there, he insists, but it must be found to end this mystery. His persistence has inspired campaigners, but also fueled skepticism. Critics warn that his theory could become another in a long list of false dawns, distracting from more grounded investigative avenues. And yet, there is no escaping the pull of closure. The world still remembers MH370 because it remains unresolved, a rare moment when global technology failed and left humanity humbled. For families, the question is not whether to search again, but when. For governments, the question is whether they can bear the cost, financial, political, and emotional, of reopening the hunt. In the end, the debate over resuming the search reflects a deeper truth. MH370 is not just an aviation mystery, it is a human one. Behind the data and technology are 239 souls whose fates remain unconfirmed and families who still wake each day without answers. Whether or not Richard Godfrey's proof leads to the wreckage, his work has reignited something precious, the belief that the truth is still out there, waiting beneath the waves. Nearly a decade after MH370 vanished, the story has evolved from a tragedy of aviation into one of the great unsolved mysteries of the modern age. Richard Godfrey's claim that he has pinpointed the aircraft's final resting place is only the latest, though perhaps the most compelling, attempt to pierce the silence of the Indian Ocean. His theory has brought hope, frustration, and division. Hope for families desperate for answers, frustration for skeptics who see another untested idea, and division among officials unsure whether to commit to another costly search. What makes Godfrey's work stand out is not simply the novelty of using WSPR technology, but the way his findings seem to align with multiple strands of evidence. Drift studies of debris, satellite data, and ocean current modeling all appear to converge on his proposed site. For families, this alignment feels like destiny. After years of contradictory theories, finally a picture is forming that makes sense. "We don't care about the method," one family member said. "We just want them found." That statement captures the heart of the MH370 saga. For most, the technical debates matter less than the human need for closure. Skeptics, however, warn against that very emotional pull. WSPR technology has never before been used to track aircraft, let alone in such a high-stakes case. Radio anomalies could have many explanations, from solar activity to interference by other planes. They argue that unless Godfrey's coordinates can be independently verified, launching another search risks pouring millions into the ocean for nothing. And yet, their caution struggles to counterbalance the mounting pressure from families and campaigners who believe enough time has been lost already. Governments face a painful calculus. Searching again could cost tens of millions. Failing again could deepen mistrust in aviation authorities. But doing nothing may be worse. Every year that passes without answers erodes confidence not only in Malaysia's handling of the crisis but in global aviation itself. After all, if a Boeing 777 can vanish without explanation, what else might slip through the cracks of technology and oversight? Ocean Infinity, the company most likely to conduct another mission, has hinted strongly that they are ready to return. Advances in underwater mapping, robotics, and data analysis since 2018 mean that the search could be more effective than ever before. This time, they would not be scouring empty expanses. They would have precise coordinates. Whether those coordinates prove correct is the gamble. For the families, there is no gamble at all. For them, the wreckage is not just an object, but the last link to loved ones lost without farewell. Finding it would not erase their grief, but it would end the cruel limbo of uncertainty. Without recovery, they remain trapped between hope and despair, unable to properly mourn. It is this emotional burden, carried daily for almost 10 years, that keeps MH370 in the headlines long after other disasters have faded. Richard Godfrey knows this. His persistence is driven not only by engineering curiosity, but by empathy. "We owe it to them," he has said of the families. His critics may doubt his science, but few doubt his sincerity. And in the end, sincerity may be what finally forces the world back into the Indian Ocean. The disappearance of MH370 has always been more than an aviation mystery. It is a wound that refuses to heal. Godfrey's proof, whether it leads to the wreckage or not, has reignited the most important truth of all: the search cannot remain abandoned. Somewhere beneath 4 kilometers of dark water lies the answer to what happened on March 8, 2014. Whether governments act, whether companies return, whether the world listens, the wreckage waits. And perhaps that is the most haunting fact of all. MH370 is still out there, silent, intact, hidden in the deep. It is not lost. It is waiting to be found.